I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So today, Boils and Ghouls, we will be reviewing that fantastic, or semi-fantastic, remake of Fantasy Island that was made...
Not a remake.
Well, it is a remake.
No, it's a movie. The other ones were TV series.
Okay, and it was made in year 2020.
Yeah, very recent. It's hot off the printing presses.
Yes, and as I said in the past, we'll probably reveal a few spoilers in this one.
Yeah,
so,
because it's the nature of the beast, hey.
Yeah, so it's the newest one, and it's our first ever review of a movie that's just currently
But we'll
happened.
try to keep the spoils down to a minimum, but give you enough to tantalise you. How's that?
Yeah,
Does
or
that sound good?
yeah, roughly.
Okay, I like that.
Although,
I like that. Yeah.
A lot of people out there, a lot of people would tell you this movie is could go under a B movie quality when you think about it.
Ooh, you're getting nasty already, aren't you? Ooh.
I'm not being nasty. It's just
Look,
that
there's a troll. Ah! No.
But a lot of people out there, a lot of reviewers reviewed this movie as really dark, and there's a reason for it. Just so you know.
No, dark's good because the TV series, the first TV series for Ricardo Montalban back in the I think it was the 70s. Now that was it's almost warm and fluffy.
Yeah.
Almost. And then there was a reboot of the series sometime later in, I think, 1998, and they had Malcolm McDowell do it, and that was a little bit darker. It only lasted one season, though. Now, this here is getting into the realms of being a horror movie sort of story, so it's going to be totally different to TV series.
Yeah, so it's a lot darker, and there's a reason for it, guys. A very good reason for it. If you don't believe it.
Really? Oh,
yes, it does. Even though some of you guys are thinking, what is the TV series was light and fluffy, why does this movie have to be not so light and fluffy?
See, this is a prequel to a younger Mr Roarke, and I suppose his early days at the island before it became warm and fluffy. How's that?
And before we can go on, originally the director wanted to cast Nicolas Cage to play Roarke, but he turned it down. So we can't really do anything about that.
No, I don't think it would have worked. I mean, you needed. I like Nicolas Cage. Don't get me wrong, but
I like him too.
You need a different sort of personality for this. You need someone who could come over a bit more sinister. And look, I know he's been in what's that, Hellrider and different things. And
what do they call him? Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider. Yeah, he can play a sinister type role, but he comes over still a bit warm and fluffy.
Yeah, but bear in mind, Roarke is the hotel owner, resort owner, not the. He's a businessman.
However, he's not just a businessman. We think he's more than that.
And this one has a bit of. It shows more of a backstory to Mr. Roarke. Unlike the other TV series in the other movies, the TV series, it doesn't reveal too much about his backstory.
No, actually, there is actually. I was going through some notes there. I think the early one with Ricardo Montalban, it was let slip in some of the episodes that he was an immortal, and in one of the episodes he met a female who supposedly knew him 300 years ago. Or something like that. So there's a hint that he is an immortal. And in the other one of Malcolm McDowell, it's come out of the fact that he might be an immortal too. So this guy here in this movie, I don't think he's an immortal. He's an ordinary guy who just happened to found this island, which had mystical sort of groovy things, and he's using it for his own devices.
Yes, exactly. So who directs it and stars in it and whatever?
Now, this is the thing that inspires me the most about the movie. I get funny about some things sometimes, but this is a good funny. This was produced by Jeff Wadlow, Jason Blum, and I think it's Blumstone Productions or something, rather, and Mark Toberoff. Who directed it? Jeff Wadlow. Who wrote it? Jeff Wadlow and a couple other people.
Yeah,
Chris
this is
Roach and
another one
Julian
of
Jacobs.
those.
So he's done a
Yeah.
lot of things. He was
Yeah.
really instrumentally produced, directed,
Yeah.
and wrote it. Yeah.
So this is another
Yeah.
director who can do it all.
Yeah, and that really makes me want to sing their praises. Some people say, "Oh, you can't do it all." Yeah. Well, some people can, and obviously Jeff Wadlow is one of the guys who can.
Can.
Whether you like the movie or not is
Redundant.
is another thing altogether. But as someone can do it all, he didn't go stupid and act in the bloody thing, because he might not be a good actor. But
some directors have done in the past.
well, we know some guys who have produced, directed, and acted it, and that's gone pretty dismal.
Pear-shaped.
One of the worst movies around. I won't mention the name of the movie.
Because he probably mentioned it too many times.
I've mentioned it once, twice before. But yeah, the guy acted in it, and he produced, directed it, and it's terrible.
Yes. So who
Can't
stars
act
in
to save
this?
his life.
So
No,
who
no.
stars in this film?
I'm not going to go through everybody.
Well, just refer to
No,
us
I'm
the lead
going
roles.
to the main one. Michael Penner. I think it's right pronunciation. His last name Penner. He's been in different movies. Usually, he's like a co-star or a bit further down the food chain. This one, he's a lead role. He plays Mr. Roarke, the keeper of Fantasy Island. And that sort of stuff. Yeah. And now, I won't go too much because we're going to talk about the storyline anyway. There's a lady called Maggie Q, who plays Gwen Olsen. She's there because she missed out the marriage proposal sort of thing a couple of years ago.
and she wants to relive it.
Relive that moment and try and make a difference in her life. Now, Lucy Hale plays Melanie Cole.
We'll tell you more about her later.
She's just a disturbed girl who wants to take a revenge on somebody, a childhood bully. But more about that later.
More about that later.
Austin Stowell is Patrick Sullivan. He wants to. He wanted to join the army at one stage, but his mother didn't want him to. But his dad's died in the army, and he wants to enlist in the war and prove himself to be a hero like his father. That gets complicated and a little bit twisted here, but it just gets around and round and around in circles. But anyway, irrespective. Portia Doubleday as Sloane Madison.
She's the part of one of the fantasies.
Yeah, she was a school bully who not Melanie, somebody else.
Melanie, yeah.
Yeah, Melanie
You got it right.
was teased by, and she's one of the people who she wants to get back at. Ryan Hansen as J.D. Weaver. Now, there's two guys, unlikely brothers. One's white American, one's Chinese. So obviously there's someone's mothers and fathers passed away or divorced, and they got married and they become brothers. So anyway, Ryan Hansen plays J.D. Weaver. He's a party boy.
And that's an end of
I'm
his
not going to say anything
conversation.
else.
We're not going to say anything else about it.
And Jimmy Yang is his brother Brax, and he's another party boy. I'm not going to say anything about these two because they'll
that's
be
the
in
end
the
of
story.
it until later on.
Now, there's a Michael Rooker. He plays Damon, who's a private investigator, supposedly stuck on the island, trying to do an expose type thing on Mr. Roarke and what's going on the island.
Yeah, not very much about him.
No, he has a bit of a part in there, but we're not quite sure about him. But we think he is what he is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go for any more.
Let's
Wait, no. Parissa Fitz-Henley is Julia Roarke, which is Mr. Rourke's. Oh, well, okay. Do I say wife or deceased wife here?
Wife.
He's wife, but she plays an interesting part in this.
Yeah.
I won't go through all the other ones, okay, because there's lots of other people in here, but
Yeah.
they're all.
We can mention. No, let's mention him later on. Obviously.
Yeah.
He comes much later on in the story, and he plays a key part to this story.
Anyway. Do you want to take it away and start telling the overview? Well, look, the overview of the story is pretty much like a TV series. All these people come there for a fantasy to live it out and whatever. But the only thing the difference of this fantasy is that the one person who's a guest here has arranged for all the other people to be here.
Yeah, a lot like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, where the killer goes ahead and gets these people to come to an island, and he goes out and tries to get them all.
Oh, we must do that one. Hey. Anyway, irrespective. So a person does that. So it's a funny thing. The game is afoot, Holmes.
Ooh,
Do you want to
right.
take over?
Yes, I will. So it starts off where our guests arrive, for different reasons. They all came here on a special a competition.
Yeah, they supposedly won tickets to come to Fantasy Island.
Well, that's similar to that that movie I just told you.
Well, that has actually been used in some of the TV shows. Most people have to pay big dollars to be there.
Yeah.
Some would be given freebies.
Obviously, they would
needed
win it from a competition or something.
If they had, some of those people had to be there to be part of the other person's fantasy as well. So but this one isn't as complicated.
Yes. So anyway, the story starts off with the guests arrive and Julia, who just like Tattoo from the TV show, she runs to Roarke's office saying, "The plane is here." Well, not really, not in that words, but you get the gist.
Yeah, whatever.
So they arrive and they all wonder, how does Fantasy Island work?
Yeah, they didn't know enough about it.
Yeah, there's like a lot of mystery. Like they can't work out. Will they just get actors? Do they have CGI doing special effects?
Holograms and stuff. They had no idea because
stuff like that.
Yeah, because they didn't look into it. They were given freebies.
Yes, it's just like if you're offered something online and they say, "Look here, you get a free tickets to go to this nice resort." And
is there a catch?
Is there a catch?
Do I have to buy timeshare?
Exactly. Yeah. So our guests arrive. They get themselves settled in, and they get themselves organized. Of course, they then decide to talk about their fantasies to Roarke. He explains that you have only one fantasy to do.
Yeah, and the idea is to see it through to the end.
Yes.
Once you choose your fantasy, you're supposed to see it through.
Yeah.
You can't say, "Oh, I've changed my mind."
Yeah. And unknowingly, or some of the people, one of our characters, Gwen, I think it was, she notices something weird about the place. Like you see blood dripping from the ceiling.
Is it blood or black water? I couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell if it was black water or blood.
Yeah. But
it looked very dark and looked very
drippy.
And she then spots a person. It's all got a lot of jump scares in this scene where you see something and then it disappears. You keep guessing what is going on.
He said, "What's happening now?" Well, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know.
And another thing is that when the fantasies start, weird stuff starts occurring halfway through their fantasies, like people coming back from the dead and stuff like that. Even though most of the time you're supposed to learn something from the experience. One of the two things in one of the fantasies is about the two guys. What's his name?
CJ. Well, what's his name?
And JD. They want to experience having it all.
Yeah, party time, everything else, money, girls, whatever.
Yeah, men, women, whatever.
However, it went sour because they were given a mansion, all the party stuff, but then these some guys from a drug cartel, terrorist type guys, came there looking for their stash of cocaine or something and money and stuff, which they had no idea about.
Yeah,
so they had. How do they think they're going to pay for all this?
Yeah, true.
Even in the fantasy.
Let me see, what's his name? Patrick, the guy who wants to be a soldier, he goes off doing the military thing, and he's surprised to find out his dad is there with him.
He's the leader of patrol out there, but he doesn't recognise. Well, it goes back in time, I suppose, where his dad has a son at home who's something like 12 years old or something, or whatever, and he sees this guy who's in his mid-20s or 30 years old or something rather, saying, "Hey, I'm your son." Yeah, right. Yeah.
And when he hears about his upcoming death, he wants to jump ship.
Yeah, and Dad died a hero in reality, and he said, "I'm not going to die a hero." Yeah, heroes the wrong guy, the right guy in the wrong place. Yeah, you're not given a choice.
Well, maybe he was thinking about his son. Like he wants to go
back
home.
He wanted to go home with his boy.
To be with his son. Maybe change the past.
But you know what the funny thing is? He did try to run away. He didn't get blown up like you're supposed to. He died another way. So you can't get away from your destiny, folks.
Yeah. As for the lady, what's her name, Gwen? She does her fantasy. She relives her dating with her boyfriend. He proposes. She accepts, and 5.
And then Jenna jumps forward 5 years in her fantasy, and
Yes.
she's got a little girl, and she's so adorable.
Oh.
I'm a grandpa, you see, so
Yeah,
I
and
like
I'm
kitties.
an aunt, even though I don't like using the term.
Aunt, aunt, whatever.
And I,
You look like an ant.
yes.
No.
So she's feeling like this is unbelievable. She still doesn't believe that this is all real and thinks that this is just an actor just portraying her boyfriend.
And little girl, and she starts to realise that it's not, but then she realises she wants to change her fantasy because it's not what she really wanted. She wanted something else,
Yeah.
more,
She wants
more
to.
significant.
Yeah, she wants to go back and save a poor guy who was going to die in her apartment building.
And partly because it was her fault. She left the kettle on and she went out and it burnt the building down and he was stuck in the building.
Yes.
Gee.
Yeah, and so moving on, Melanie, she does her revenge fantasy, and it looks just like something out of Saw or Hostile. Yeah. I don't know. You guys
Mr.
work
Saw,
it out.
I like Saw. Man, what was that Wayne guy? James Wan, is it?
Yeah.
Hey, anyone that hasn't seen the Saw movies, they're really good.
Yes.
We might review some of those later.
Yeah, and
like
Hostile. If show of hands who want us to review that one.
I do. Okay. Oh.
Yes. So
Well,
anyway.
Don't I count?
Yes.
Oh. Yeah.
So anyway, so she still believes this is all CGI special effects and animation and holograms, but then she realizes that her bully, the girl that she got bullied by, is the real deal.
She's real. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she thinks then that Mr. Roarke
was.
Well, no, I'd say she pretends, I suppose, because she's arranged this, but she's acting like she didn't know she was real.
Yeah.
And she saves her from this mean guy in there.
Yeah.
But irrespective that it's not what you think of this girl. You find out it's all unfolds.
Yeah,
in a funny way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I imagine a lot of you guys probably thought she'd be like the final girl, saves the day, yada yada yada.
I thought it's supposed to be a virgin. She'll come over as a virgin to me.
Not always. No, all the even the Quinn was probably.
Who? Quinn who?
I mean Gwen.
Gwen. Gwen, yeah.
Is an older woman, and I imagine she's.
No, I'm talking about Final Girls.
Yeah, I know. But she's does save the day in her own way.
She does. Well, she survives anyway. A lot of people die. Actually, really great fantasy on. People die. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get money back if you die?
Good
Get a
point.
refund? Yeah,
So anyway, she saves her friend. I mean the bully, and soon enough they traipse around the island trying to find a way out.
Yeah.
And of course they run into that
Damon guy,
detective guy.
And he says why he's there. He's trying to find out what's going on there because he thinks Rourke is not all these scenes, and Rourke found out he was there and destroyed his two-way radio, so he can't get off the island. And he's quite plausible, and he actually saves the girls from this guy in a most dramatic way. He crash tackles this guy and he goes over a cliff with him, and they both end up dying.
Yeah. At this point, all the other guests' fantasies start blending together,
interweaving. Yeah, and becoming pear-shaped. But there's a reason for this, because they're all there because they're all part of the master fantasy, which is Melanie's.
Yes. Shocker. Yeah. See, Melanie, in one of the scenes where we see the shriveled up corpse creature, it turns out to be her boy, sort of a guy she liked.
Yeah, who she knew quite well, but before they were going to go out, they knew each other for quite a while.
Yeah, had
and
coffee.
They were going to go on their very, very first date, and he never showed up. And she got really annoyed, and she went home and found out on the news that there's a fire in his apartment and he died.
Yeah, and she kind of, I guess, in her way, she may have made her wish and fantasize that she'd wish these people would come to the island and get killed.
All the people she thought were responsible for his death. And that would be, Gwen, she left the kettle on and burnt the building down. She was the main one.
Yeah. Yeah, even though it was an accident.
And those two guys, the two brothers, they actually lived in the apartment block.
I think they were, what do they call them, roommates?
Yeah, they lived in the apartment block. Yeah. They didn't live in the same room with this guy. and they didn't go and check on him. And then one of the guys who was a policeman who wants to be a soldier, he was actually outside saying, "Don't go in the building, the fire brigade is in."
Yeah.
He could have gone in and saved the guy.
Somehow,
so it just all rolls on that
yeah,
everybody had something to do with the guy's death
I think
in a
that
funny way.
what's his name? Brax?
Yeah.
He said he got wind of that Nick was going to go on a date that night and he thought he was out already.
Yeah, you see, so everyone knew the guy who died, but he didn't actually come into it because he's dead, obviously. But that was part of Melanie's fantasy, getting him back at all these people who she held responsible for his death.
Yeah, when they would.
Bitter, isn't she?
Yeah. Eventually, they head down into the cave, and while everyone's still trying to work out what's going on, they even guess that Nick was Julie and Roarke's son.
Yeah, they thought that. Hey, it must have something to do with them, but no. Rourke's having a fantasy, but he's having his own fantasy.
Yeah, a long fantasy.
Yeah, which involves Julia.
Yes.
See, Julia's there like a
secretary or
secretary, PA, something or other. But she's actually his dead wife, who he just keeps bringing back, and he keeps bringing back in his fantasy to when he first met her. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah.
Because I think she had cancer or something, did she? Or, yeah. So he wants to know when she's healthy and everything and that sort of stuff, yeah.
Yes.
But I think she realised it even in the fantasy. It shows that she was becoming self-aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or starting to maybe she knew the truth.
Well, she knew the truth, yeah. She's been reincarnated so many times, I think some was getting in.
Yeah. So anyway, our victims go down into the cave where the sort of the heart of Fantasy Island is.
Yeah, like a big piece of crystal or something.
Yeah.
Rather. Yeah.
And where it shows you bits and pieces of everyone's fantasy.
Magic mirror, tell me please.
So anyway, eventually they figured out that it's not that Nick's apparition appears again, and he comes as a human form, and he tells Gwen that he was never part of Julie or Roarke's fantasy.
Yeah, he's a who?
Yes.
He didn't even know who they were.
Yeah, and of course, we soon enough, Patrick gets stabbed by Melanie, and soon enough, Melanie reveals her true colours.
Yes.
And the fact that all the horrible creatures like the terrorists and Dr. Evil are all her minions of sorts.
Well, part of her fantasy, which came into it, and
yeah.
I'm going to help. I'm going to get Dr. Torch or his name involved. I'm going to get these terrorists there to take care of Brax and his brother, and all that. It all comes into her fantasy, even though they have their own fantasies. They merged somehow or other. Interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think that her fantasy, which was darker, was was the strongest, and
the
it
first
dealt
one,
with all
and it
three,
was the first
4 or
one.
5 people.
The first one
4
takes
people.
precedent over the other ones.
Yeah, meaning she wished for this fantasy before the others made their whatever.
Yeah, it made their decision, so hers takes first place.
How she worked it out is beyond me.
Because she read the script. Now,
Yes. So anyway.
But one of them tweeted. Where was it? They fantasize some or other and brought Nick back to life.
Yeah, somehow
Was that
Sloane,
Sloane,
the girl that was her bully, who was partly responsible for her madness
and low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem of sorts. Anyway, at first Roarke says that the fantasy must live out its natural course.
Yeah.
But Julie comes to him and tells him to save his guests before they all die.
Yeah, and they were all going to die the way things are going. So
Yes, soon enough.
Everyone died. What a great movie. Yeah.
Yeah, soon enough. But they worked it all out, the remaining guests, and they figured out that if Sloane drank the black water, she gets a fantasy of sorts.
So she drank some of the water,
Yes.
which she hadn't done before because she had been a prisoner there.
yes.
She wasn't part of the fantasies. And her fantasy was for Nick and Melanie to be together.
Yes, and guess
Forever.
who comes popping in to...
As a burnt crispy critter.
Yes, he drags her, and into the
This little pond
the
around
pond
this
around
yeah.
the crystal.
Yeah,
Drowning
and
her.
he drowns her. It was nice.
But in her last attempt at getting her revenge, she pops open a grenade
Oh, which he grabbed off one of the other people.
and throws it, and Patrick, in his last attempt to save everyone, he jumps on it.
Yeah.
Like his dad would have done.
His dad. Yeah.
And then next morning, Gwen wakes up like it was just a horrible nightmare of sorts. Which
we had Gwen and Sloane.
Sloane
Brax.
and Brax all arrive in the.
There's three left out of all of them.
So
Yeah.
they all arrive in Rourke's office, and they're all happy to see each other. And Rourke explains that Patrick died a hero, and his dad was very proud.
Yeah, but Brax was upset his brother
He's long dead.
was dead, and he wanted to give his brother a chance. So he had another fancy.
Well, actually, I think Rourke said that Brax was living out his brother's fantasy where they were partying down, meaning Brax never even had a fantasy up until the end.
Okay, yeah. And his fancy was that his brother didn't die. So, but Rourke said that's fine. You have the fancy, but to make it work, you have to stay on the island.
Yeah, forever and ever.
Forever. So, and then when they got on the plane to leave, the two ladies got in there, and Brax didn't got in there, and sitting up the front with the pilot is Brax's brother, who's died 15 minutes ago, and he's there. And he's getting his second chance of life by going out there and living, living his life while his brother stays on the island.
Yeah, and of course,
lovely.
He's told by Rourke, "You work for me now, so we'll get you a uniform, and we want to know
We need a name.
We need a name for you, something unusual." And he says, he'll probably go by his weird nickname because
when he's in college,
he got tattooed because of a wager.
He got some ink on his chest.
Yes, and guess what?
The ink was tattoo.
And Rourke says, "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Tattoo."
Yeah, so
Tattoo.
this is a prequel to the first TV series in a funny roundabout way.
So in some ways, you guys may think why it's so dark, that maybe it because
Mr. Roarke was in a dark place at the time, and then he became a bit more softer and nicer.
Somehow
it became like a Dolly Father Christmas.
Thanks to Julie and all the others, he was able to be purified, and the island became purified, meaning that they're not going to cater to dark fantasies any longer. No. It's going to cater to some beautiful fantasies.
There might be some interesting ones, but But anyway, it wasn't going to be come to Fantasy Island and die, your great adventure.
Although, if you ever look at the old Fantasy Islands, there are some dark bits in it, if not too dark.
Little dark, bits,
but nothing too
nothing terribly dark, but enough to make it interesting. You don't want all teddy bears picnic sort of stuff, do you? No.
Although the stories are meant to be a life lessons to the people, right, Dad?
Something along those lines, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's the whole point of this story. I wish I could make it make out this movie was incredible, but I just feel like there's something wrong with it. I just don't remember.
There are lots of good bits in it, but I think it was a little bit too busy. I won't say it was disjointed. But there was too many things going on. It was too busy because it was jumping from this bit to this person to the next person to the next person to the you keep jump, and you're going, okay, where are we up to now? Oh yeah. Now if you were watching this movie,
which I imagine you have.
No, if you're going to watch this movie, sit down there and watch it. If you went outside to go a quick drink out of the fridge, can of beer, soft drink, whatever, and come back, you might lose track of the movie. It's because I missed a bit. And it's a little bit too busy with all these different things. You got one person going for this, being chased by drug cartel people. One's in a war zone. One's somewhere else. Yeah, it just gets a bit complicated. And I think really they could have put a bit less into it, maybe, and that would have made it a bit easier to watch. I mean, still a good movie. I like the location. Everything's great.
Yeah, I often keep thinking that the reason it was so dark was because Melanie was in a dark place.
Yeah, but it was good. Like I liked the movie. but a little bit too busy. So, I mean, you have to really focus on it. You could not watch this half asleep to enjoy it. You have to be wide awake and pay attention to it. In one of those sort of movies, you can't just lay back,
I mean,
have some weed, get drunk, whatever, and try to enjoy it because you wouldn't understand it. I
true.
think it's a bit too complicated for that. Now, having said that, okay, so a lot of the reviews, I think you mentioned the same. Some of the reviewers didn't like it, and one of them actually said something like that. Where was it? I had where is it? I had some notes here. It had put half a dozen scripts into the one island and tried to run them all at the same time or something or other. And that's how it came over.
I see.
Yeah, and which is a bit sad because I think overall it's a good movie.
If it was I just wish I knew what could be. I mean, apart from the longness and different stories running in at the same time, I just wish it could have been better more than ever.
Oh, hey, here's a good comment. I do not like Rotten Tomatoes critiques.
Oh, me too.
No, but I just noticed something here in my notes here. Now it says the website's critics consensus reads: Fantasy Island tries to show audience a dark side of wish fulfillment, but mainly serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of exhuming long-dead franchises. I like that. Sorry, I thought it was rather funny.
Yeah.
So,
How can this be related to franchises when it's only a single movie?
Relating to the long-dead franchises. The first one was 7 seasons, and they tried to reboot it 15 years later.
That's it.
Did another, reboot, did 1 season, and now we've got a movie here 20 years later going, let's try do it again. So, just leave it alone.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's what they're trying to say.
Yeah. So
Here's the other one. Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times called the film inane and contrived and wrote that it feels like someone planted about half a dozen different scripts all over this fantasy island. And that's what I'm saying. There's too many things going on, and he said something similar to that. So, yeah.
Well, I just wish I knew a way to make the story better. I mean, if anyone out there is thinking of doing their own Fantasy Island movie, I wish that they take this as a
could
bit
have
of
had
a
3 fantasies
instruction
going.
manual to creating your own Fantasy
They could have
Island.
had 3 fantasies going instead of 6 or something, or
Yeah.
5, whatever. Yeah,
I mean, I think that
it might have been easier.
the limit of fantasies in Fantasy Island movies or TV shows, it's usually 3 people who have one or
3
three
fantasies,
or
whatever.
3 groups of
If
people.
it gets
who
too many, it's just jumping from place to place to place, and
Yeah, this one had 5 people. Not counting Roarke or Julie, obviously.
Forget Rourke and his bit, and but so a little bit, but not. I still reckon it's worth 8.5. I mean, it was good. I like the sets. It was filmed on location.
Somewhere in Fiji.
Novato, N-A-V-O-D-O, Novato Bay in Fiji. I think the other TV series was in Hawaii somewhere, but had the same sort of feel. Beautiful house, locations, whatever. It had that nice feel. A great place, great holiday resort. I love to go there.
Flying a seaplane, I think it was.
Yeah, you went by seaplane, yeah.
God, admit, that's always an awesome way of entering into Fantasy
I
Island.
would love to go to a resort via seaplane. But the problem is, once you're on the island, you can't get off. You would have to live out your holiday.
Until it's done.
Live out your holiday. Okay. Until it's finished. You couldn't leave. You couldn't run down the road to McDonald's. There's no McDonald's there.
Yeah. After they finished making, I think I found something else out just recently about it. It says it was announced in July 2000 that a re-imaging of TV series Fantasy Island was being developed at.
Okay.
Well,
Another one.
yeah, they're going to do a
another
TV
one.
series of this, unless they thought about it and presented it to the production company, but they didn't.
Well,
They felt they were.
What year was that?
It was in the year 2018.
Okay. So they did the
So
movie instead,
maybe they didn't
instead.
get enough positive feedback from it. I don't know. Maybe it's still being worked on, or maybe they're developing some scripts.
Yeah.
Let's just hope they'll stick to 3 or
Look,
4
personally-
guests.
Personally, I would like to see them bury this. No, no. Look, it's sort of like, hey, how many times do you redo a franchise? They did it back in, what was it? Where was it? The original one was
1977.
1977. They did the 7 seasons. Then
They made the next
about
one in
1998,
1998.
99, that period. They did 1 season. It didn't take off.
Yeah, that's a shame. I liked
And now
it
20 years
that
later,
one.
they're thinking you're doing it again. We're going to do the Brady Bunch revisited yet again.
I don't
How
know.
many times?
I remember they made a
turn out the
TV
same
show
thing again?
of
Yeah.
Riverdale, and that one's a little darker
What's
than
Riverdale about?
Riverdale is sort of based off the old Archie comics.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, Archie, hey, yeah. Veronica
But it's
and
more-
Betty, hey,
but
hey,
it's
hey.
more
look good.
darker
Oh, sorry.
again in this one.
I love Veronica and Betty. Veronica was cute. Betty was a nice little
I
blonde.
think I haven't watched
Who would
it.
play Jughead, though?
What?
Who'd play Jughead? Oh, sorry. I'm just
Anyway, I
wondering,
haven't
yeah.
bothered to watch it
Hey,
because
would Jughead
it's
be a
not.
stoner in the new version?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, according to the people who made this,
What?
that they kind of got inspired by watching Cabin in the Woods and stuff.
They did. That's why I mentioned it. There's a stoner in there. That's why you hit me.
I was referring to Fantasy Island, Mike.
Yes, I know. But
And there's no stoner in that, is there?
No, but the guy in Cabin in the Woods was, and he was a hero.
And what's this got to do with Fantasy Island?
Because you're talking about the RC one, Riverdale. Don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me. She hits me a lot.
Yes, well, you deserve it.
Hey, oh, come on. Okay.
So anyway, I wish I could probably give this movie full marks, but I feel like something is missing from this movie. I just wish I knew.
No, it's not missing. I think it's just too many scripts going on. I think too many side stories and
yeah.
bits and pieces trying to interweave. And look, it was skillfully done. Don't get me wrong. It's still a good watch, but it was too busy. Yeah. Something like that's my gut feeling. Yes, that's
Yeah.
mine.
How would you rate this movie, or do we have time
I've done
for that?
already 8.5.
Okay, I think I'd give this 7 out of 10.
Ooh, you're
I just feel like there's something missing from this on the plot, and I feel like it's
Well, that could be probably it because I mean, there's if all running around. You think is it going to be a conclusion for that one, and is there can be a conclusion for that one? And they did left. I wouldn't say left them the other fantasies hanging, but they didn't come to a really good. You know, oh, that was really good. Ending.
Yeah,
They just
I
went,
mean-
oh, that one's finished.
Yeah, I mean, unlike other Fantasy Island movies and TV shows, you're supposed to learn from the experience. While the characters did learn something, like they learnt that Fantasy Island can also can help the revenge fantasies and stuff. Who would have thought that people would develop a revenge fantasy out of it?
Well, that's a fantasy. I want to get my own back, sort of thing. But hey, a fantasy to me is a fantasy. It's not real. This became oh so real, and
Yes.
and
unlike
that made it interesting.
unlike in the other fantasy island movie TV shows, often or not, sometimes sometimes the things they see are not real. Maybe they won't. These people within the fantasy are fictional, fake, right then?
Yeah, well,
Like-
actually, in this movie, they were illusions created by the island, but in the other one, there, I can't remember. There are people hanging around there filling roles, but were they actually part of the island's mystical enchantment or what? We didn't really know.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time in Fantasy Island, these guys are
wait a minute.
conjured up by by the
Wait a
by the
minute.
island itself.
Wait a minute, 1998-1999 series with Malcolm McDowell. I think he had power, like a demon or something or other. Maybe he was making things happen. So maybe the first one with Ricardo Montalban had something. He might have been creating the illusions of all the people hanging around there and interacting. And this one here, the island's doing it all. So yeah, so it could be all supernatural stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and throughout the story, we get the idea of each. I mean, sometimes Roarke approaches each of the individuals, asking them what kind of fantasy you're looking for, usually talks you out of it sometimes.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And,
Yes,
well, that'd be me.
like some of the kids,
And hair.
like two of the boys want to relieve want to live a fantasy role with having it all.
Yeah.
And living in a
luxury mansion and have a big party of all these babes hanging around and stuff.
yeah,
And
like the what would they call it the but sort of bachelor's Playboy mansion.
yeah. A bit like what's it called? The guy from the Playboy.
That would be
Buglux. I can't remember his name now.
I'm thinking. I can't remember his name.
Anyway, the Playboy bunny mansion sort of thing. Yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I only know he's a very big popular bachelor of sorts.
He
always
was.
hanging out with bunnies and stuff.
Yeah, well, I can't remember his name though now. Long time ago, I'm out of touch. Yeah,
That's
I'm getting old.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what it makes me feel in this one, and the other ones, of course, they look like pretty much like the stuff I've seen in the past, where you just walk into a room and bam, you're in a different dimension of sorts.
Almost, yeah. I remember that corridor. You walk down this corridor out of his office there, and you walk through, and all of a sudden you're in a different location.
Yeah, like you're
not bad.
Yeah, living the past, or
yeah, or she went through one time. She ended up at that restaurant when the guy was going to propose to her. Another time she went through there, she was somewhere else.
Yeah, like when she was trying to save Nick from being burnt.
Yeah, she came back to a motel, wasn't it? Something. Yeah.
Along the way in that fantasy, she kind of seen not only she saw the two brothers. She also seen the policeman who was
outside.
Patrick.
Yeah.
And she realizes that they're all connected.
They are. They're all there for this guy's Nick's demise in the fire.
Yeah, they all thought that maybe they all knew Nick and stuff like that, even though Melanie was the only one who didn't reveal all the past.
Yeah, well, Melanie was the one who organised it. Didn't have to reveal anything to anybody.
No.
And then she told everybody, I knew him at school and we used to be friends and talk, do coffee. And then our first official date, he died because of you guys. Yeah. Gee, that's fine holding a grudge, eh, guys?
Yeah, well, this woman does hold a grudge. Like, the girl that she got bullied, she was rather a nasty bully, like saying nasty things. And in return, when she did her revenge fantasy on her in that room of sorts, she even sent up a link to a video of her having an affair with someone else.
Someone, yeah. Friend of the family.
And
or
just like the things you see on social media, she puts it on Facebook for all to see.
And her husband, and it was linked to the husband, and so it popped up on his computer.
Yes, and
he was really annoyed. Gee, I can't imagine why.
Yeah, in that scene, she does eventually contact. Sloane eventually does contact him, trying to explain what's the situation.
Yeah, and he wasn't really compassionate, was he?
No.
But he said, but he did agree to phone for an aeroplane.
No, actually, he was going to phone the detective's contact, and that didn't happen because we never seen him.
No, wasn't he going to phone the contact to get the plane? Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I said, he going to phone the detective's contact to get the plane to get him off the island.
Most likely, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it was. And guess what? That didn't happen.
Yeah, I do wonder if Sloane's if that's part of Melanie's fantasy, and well, everything on Fantasy Island is still a fantasy until up to the end.
Yeah, it is.
And
until they give you the bill.
Until the fantasy's done, and does that mean in the present does her Sloane's husband still resent her for having that affair, or does he put it in the past and just try to make up with her?
Yeah, but see, when she was talking to him, she actually said something that he was pushing her away. So maybe they both had problems. Maybe when she got back home and she gave a big hug because I'm really sorry, everything. Can we try again? And blah. See, they might have made it. They built some bridges there and bury the hatchet in someone's head and whatever. Right.
Yes.
Well, you know.
So, we're running out of time here.
No, we're not running out of time. I could keep on talking for hours.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm going to I don't want to say anything nasty about this movie. As I've said in the past, and I'll say it again.
We are not trolls.
We're not trolls, and I'm not going to...
We're not going to bag it too much. Like, I reckon the guy who made it did a bloody good job.
Yeah, I just wish I could agree with you there and say that this is an awesome movie, but
I didn't say it was an awesome movie. I think he did a good job. He produced it, directed it, and wrote it. But I just think he made it too busy.
yes.
That's all I'm saying. I think it was a good movie. I think it's a good movie. Everything come together good. A great directorship. But
I
like I
guess.
said, it's just too many things going on.
I guess
For me.
I just meant that I won't see this. I won't say it's the best movie in the world.
No, me neither.
And
But
but
it's not bad.
but I'll
Not bad.
advise you guys definitely check it out and lay out your own
And
facts about it.
it's a reasonably new movie. And I don't know this guy's history, this Mr. Wadlow. He could have a good track record, or he may have yet peaked. He might be going to go on to greater things. So
maybe.
all the best to Jeff Wadlow, because I think, to me, when someone can do that many things to bring a movie to life, it makes me feel like my hero. Alfred Hitchcock, he produced, direct. He didn't write that much, I don't think, but he used to get good writers to help him. He found a good storyline and got a writer like Stefano, Joseph Stefano, to write the screenplay and stuff.
Yes.
But, when Jeff Wadlow and people like that, I take my hat off. If I had a hat on, I'll take it off.
Yeah, well, I often say this a lot to other filmmakers. I still think you have a long way to improve your craft. I mean, I know this is I probably advise to a lot of filmmakers out there, especially ones who have been doing this for years. They just have a long way to go.
You're only as good as the next movie. Well, you're only as good as your last movie. Okay, yeah, somewhat. So good. No, but anyway, I like what he's done, but a little bit too busy for my liking. But I think everything else is good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thanks for watching this. Listen to this latest podcast, and
I liked it. I like listening to it. No, I was in it, wasn't I? Sorry.
So this is your mistress of the dark, Sarah Stephenson.
And I'm the bald-headed gentleman sitting next to her.
Yeah, Igor.
Igor, right.
And
Master.
wishing you unpleasant dreams. See you around.